What is happening in Africa and elsewhere is because the men did not listen to the women, and the women did not listen to the women either, and because the people did not listen to each other and themselves, and because nobody listened to the children and the poets. In this garden, with its bougainvillea, its white butterflies and red ginger, I have eaten a breakfast of oatmeal and an egg. I have savored the taste of food in my mouth, the sun on my face, the security of knowing it is not likely that someone will arrive with machetes and guns to smash me and my computer, trash my dwelling, and commit other atrocities that have traditionally left women too stunned and ashamed to speak of them. I mentioned the garden, the flowers, the butterflies, the oatmeal, and the egg, because it is essential to remember what so many in the world, especially women, are losing to war. The simplest necessities and pleasures, a flower, an egg, a child's smile, a partner's caress, sun on our faces, clean water to drink, an unbroken night's rest, a private moment to lend wings to our dreams. These things are our birthright, as are a place of our own, sufficient food, a sound education, freedom from assault, excellent medical attention. All these things are within reach, costing far less than the massively overproduced weapons that are stockpiled or horribly in use around the world. It is our duty to demand these things, not just for ourselves, but for everyone on this small planet. When you read this book, you will be astounded at how far we have fallen as a species from what we assumed was our innate integrity, decency, and dignity as human beings. How driven we have become by a self-hatred that has set us pitilessly against ourselves. Because, in fact, there is no other anywhere. It is always us, and only us, that we wound whenever we harm another. There is no way to be separate from the rest of creation. We indulge the fantasy of being separate to our peril, which brings us to that which truly leaves us speechless and gasping at its insatiable nature. Human greed. For it is the greed of humans and our addiction to war as a method of resolving conflict that spreads this carnage and suffering. We humans are forgetting our very essence as divine beings. It is a terrifying state of affairs. What are we becoming? How hard is it to look? Who can imagine 800,000 people being hacked to death with machetes in the span of 4 months? That number means more people than the population of most cities. Who can truly grasp the horror of 500,000 women and girls being raped, many of them mutilated or murdered, during this same period? Who can fathom the violation of infants, their tiny bodies ripped apart and left bleeding in the street, and the repeated raping of women until there is no lining left between vagina and intestines? Who can imagine one's neighbor joining with other men to destroy one's dwelling, shoot one's children, rape and deliberately impregnate all females that can be found, so that the enemy will live perpetually inside the doomed community? What has happened inside a person that commits these crimes? What has happened to a world that, out of confusion, disbelief, and fear, ignores them? Will our disbelief, confusion, and fear only be activated toward change when we hear the sound of killers at our own door? We must rouse ourselves, awaken to our predicament as humans, as people who know there is goodness in all of us. Women, in their capacity as nurturers and sustainers of the young, continue to exhibit a lot of human goodness, and for that reason alone should be honored and protected. How can the world live without war? Someone must know. Is it possible that women have always known? What is the deepest reason women have been forced into their often so fatal silence? Is it because women are always wanting peace, and men have learned to enjoy war? How does one begin to account for women's low status globally, given the fact that it is through them that everything human is produced? To change the world for the better, to make it safe for the feminine, which is to make it safe for everyone, women must work together. Even if we do not like each other, we must work together anyway, as impersonal friends who face a common danger. When we work together, the entire society benefits. That is what the work of Women for Women International demonstrates. That yes, we may be marginalized and seemingly without resources, but out of the deep feminine values of caring, compassion, and courage, we bring whatever we have to the common table of woman. There we meet our sisters. They have brought all that they have as well. We sit. Sometimes the table is our bare Mother Earth. We talk, we strategize, we plan, we help each other. We never forget what war has taught us. Never again will we be resigned to illiteracy, weakness, and powerlessness, forced to let selfish men, whether fathers, brothers, lovers, husbands, or friends, lead us into an ever-darkening ignorance and servitude. We have had enough. We insist on acquiring knowledge for ourselves and for our daughters, having learned the hardest ways possible that ignorance and peace cannot coexist. We know we can create a better way of living than any of the societies, whether democracies or dictatorships, that have silenced us and used our bodies and minds without reverence or gratitude. We have learned all we need to know of leadership that insults, marginalizes, and ignores us. We will have no more of it. Of this we are certain. Knowing this, we understand something very important. We, having been so nearly destroyed, can use what we learned from our destruction to start the world again. And so may it be.